Hi, Roman.
Can you see me or no?
I can't see you.
Alright, hold on. How about now?
Not now. Oh, wait, maybe. Yes, I can see you.
Okay, perfect. So it's working?
It's working. We got it to work.
Great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this again.
No problem.
Okay.
Happy to be here.
So I'm just going to start with a little intro into you, and then we'll get right into it.
Sure.
Okay. So, there are some people who we find in life who inspire us. They make us want to be better, or maybe help push ourselves towards a goal. This past August, I attended the Teen Business Summit, where I found multiple people who are now inspirations of mine. But there was one speaker's presentation that's impact will forever push me forward and help me to succeed. His name is Roman Price, and he is the founder of Life Pulp, a motivational social network. I've shared a bit about Roman already on Teen Sanity, but I felt the greatest way to be inspired by Roman is to hear him speak and listen to his brilliant advice. I thought an interview via Skype would be the best way to feature this part-time superhero and life enthusiast. So welcome, Roman, to my first ever via Skype interview.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm honored. Thank you very much.
Okay, so my first question for you is, how do you maintain your sanity?
Well, I'm human just like anybody else, obviously. You know, I do have my moments where, I get upset. I do have my moments where I'm happy. But for me, I find that life is very simple, and we tend to, make it complicated. And I just keep mine as simple as possible. Everything from, my daily routines to my work to just anything and everything. I mean, like, just, I don't fuss over the meals I eat. Everything's a blessing. If there's traffic, it's not a big deal. I don't stress over some of the little things that most people do, and I just understand that that's a part of life. There's a little bit of good, there's a little bit of bad in every day, and it just sort of keeps me humble, and I move forward.
Thank you. I think that's going to really help a lot of teenagers. What are some reflections on your teenage years?
A lot of good memories, a lot of good friends. Those were times. I guess when you get older, you realize you sort of take for granted, just because those are great years. The responsibilities aren't as heavy as they are when you get out of school and you start your own career, life, whatever it may be. Just enjoy them, make the most of them. I mean, you'll only have them for such a short period of time. Before you know it, they'll be gone, and just love your mother and father. They're your parents. They'll always be there for you, and just enjoy your teenage years.
Okay, awesome. What inspires you?
Before Life Pulp, a ton of successful people around me have always been my inspiration. I've always tried to learn, as much as I could from them. Since I started Life Pulp, I get most of my inspiration actually from the site, because there's so many, people with good hearts that go there with a purpose of trying to help others. And it's grown in ways I never even imagined, and it's just, I can't explain the feeling that I get when I log on, when I interact with everybody, when I read the actual inspirations, and, just its growth, and, the good people there, and the good people that join every single day, I would have to say right now is my current inspiration.
That's so cool. What do you think are the components that make for a great life?
Stress is a killer, obviously. Try to keep your life as stress-free as possible. I think that's very important. Do a little bit of good. I've always found that, you get certain things, in return when you help somebody without, wanting anything in return, just out of the goodness of your heart. It does wonders for your soul. And just love, don't hate. I mean, keep the good people in your life, stay away from the bad people, and just enjoy it. I mean, life really is simple. It's, for some reason, we're bombarded with so much, and, it's made to be difficult with, 100 different million choices, and here and there, but just make it as simple as possible and enjoy it.
Okay. How do you think healthy eating and exercise affect our mental health?
I actually believe in exercising and into putting some good things into your body, only because your body is your first real home. You live there on a daily basis, and you should definitely take care of it. I'm human like anybody else. I'll eat some junk food here and there, but I have a rule. I only do it once a week. Usually on a Sunday, on days when I just sort of recharge the batteries and get ready for the day. For the week coming up. But definitely try to eat as much fruits and vegetables, and whole grains. Drink lots of water. That's something that people take for granted, and work out, because you'll notice different energy levels, in your body, and you'll just be, I think, happier throughout the day.
Thank you. I totally agree with that.
I agree 100%.
And as a teenager, I think a lot of us are afraid of failure. We're afraid of getting into the college we want. We're afraid of passing the test. How can a teenager change that mindset? How can we befriend failure, as you say it?
I think, you can't do anything about not failing in life, because anytime you're willing to take a chance, there's a chance that it may not go your way. I mean, that's life. You just have to understand it. Some things do go your way. I recently wrote, I recently wrote, anybody can fail, but it takes a special person to take that chance. And, to me, failure is not a bad thing, because I understand that sometimes I will fail. I know I'm not perfect. And I actually learned this from the successful people around me. Their failures are grand and vast, and there's many of them, but that's why they succeed in such a great way. So, sometimes if you don't get into the college that you wanted, or, you don't get the grade, that you wanted on a test that you worked really hard for, take it as a lesson, learn something from it, move on, and you'll do twice as good the second time around. Sometimes, things happen for the better, but you don't really realize it at that time. You may not get into the college, of your dreams, your first year applying, but there may be some other good options, and, if not, there's always the second year. As long as you don't give up, as long as you keep moving forward, failure turns out to be sometimes a blessing. It turns out to be your friend. It's not really a bad thing.
Okay, I totally agree. And off of that question, why do you think so many of us fear failure?
I guess rejection is a big part of it. Everybody fears it. I sometimes, fear it as well, and a lot of people associate that with failure, right? You sort of attempt to do something and you get rejected in terms of completing it. But it's a certain mindset that you can have towards it. It doesn't have to be negative. It could be a positive. I have personally learned more from my failures than I have from my successes. And if somebody was to ask me, what are the biggest reasons of you succeeding, I would have to say failure, because the lessons there are grand. And how can I be upset with something that has helped me become such a so much of a better person, right? So to me, like, I'll always say failure is a friend. I don't view it as a negative. It happens. Life comes with the good and the bad. It's never perfect. And it's just a mindset. You just, if you understand it, it's not a bad thing. And if you view it as a negative, you sort of get scared. And, you may not go after some of the things that you want to, just because they may seem impossible. But, all it takes is just a little bit of courage to see what's around the corner, even though you're scared of the actual outcome. And you do it, and you'll be surprised at what can happen. Kind
of like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I think everything happens for a reason, but at the same time, I think sometimes people use that, almost as an excuse. Kind of, well, like, I didn't try this, like, maybe it wasn't meant to be, everything happens for a reason, something else will come along. I believe your life is in your own hands, and, if something doesn't happen the first time around, don't give up, keep moving forward. And, the second time around, if, you still fail, you'll get that much closer to the actual goal line. And, things do happen for a reason, but, you still have your life in your hands, and you could still do anything that you want to do.
So you're in control of your life, really.
100%.
If a lot of teens these days, I think we sometimes get lost. We're struggling. We don't know where we are. What advice or inspiration do you have for them? How can they kind of come within their own and really push forward and really get that courage and get in control of their life?
I know it sounds a little crazy, but a little bit of silence does wonders for a person. You don't have to go as far as meditating. However, if you try it out, you might fall in love with it. Meditation isn't so much like in the days of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where Splinter would go into all these different worlds meditating. It's more along the lines of just clearing your mind. I'm in my car quite a bit. I go through meetings, and the music's always on, or some radio station. Everybody's honking. There's a ton of noise we're always bombarded with, and that sort of clogs your mind. But you'll see that if you just spend some time in a silent area without any distractions, you'll be surprised at some of the things you'll start thinking about. You'll be surprised at how clear certain things may be, versus before when they weren't, because you're bombarded with everybody trying to talk to you, music in the background, noise, whether you're on the subway, whether you're on the bus. It's really tough for you to focus. But anytime you're unsure about anything, try to spend 20 to 30 minutes in just pure silence and just think and reflect, and you'll be surprised at how what you'll be thinking about and how clear your mind will be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I do mindfulness, and that's my way of kind of meditating, and that's my way of recognizing what's going on.
Like before I work out, I take 5 minutes of just thinking about my workout and mentally prepping for it. Some of my bigger tasks, some of my bigger meetings, I make sure, there's 5 to 10 minutes before where I can just clear my head, I can focus. And there's a ton of benefits that come from it because, your subconscious mind is a powerful tool. I'm not an expert on it, but I know enough to, when you feed it, positive messages and positive energy, your body sort of reflects on it. And they do say, that, it's 90% mental, and if you get your mind right, the body simply follows.
Totally agree. I do it all the time, and that's how I maintain some of my sanity.
Yeah.
I find often right now, a lot of teens, they're either bored or they just want this excuse to do drugs and alcohol, or that's how they deal with things. If something goes bad, they use it to make them feel happy, or they think they're happy, or because their parents say don't do it, they do it. What do you have to say to them? How can they improve their perspective on life? What can they do?
Well, for starters, obviously, don't do drugs. I don't, preach that, or to me, it's such a negative environment. It brings so many negatives around you. But I'm not gonna get into it because I could talk about it for hours. I personally have never done drugs. I don't smoke, and I haven't had a drink of alcohol in 5 years. That is a tough thing to do, and it's very easy to say, hey, be like me, but sometimes it's a lot tougher to actually do it than say it. But the best way I can describe drugs is it's temporary. If you're trying to get away from an actual problem, for you to jump under the covers and pretend it doesn't exist for 5 minutes, might help you. But when you get away from the covers, the problem's still there. And I think that's what drugs are. It's a temporary relief. It's a temporary solution, because you may be on the drugs, you may feel great for a couple of hours, but then, you're off the drugs and the problem still exists. So you're not really doing anything, in terms of, solving or bettering yourself. You're simply shutting your eyes, metaphorically speaking, for, a couple of hours, pretending everything's great, but when you open them, the problem still exists. So, to me, drugs are it's a temporary out, it's a temporary solution, and that's why people get hooked on the drugs, because, well, in my opinion, I'm not an expert, because the problems, they don't go away, they're always there, and the easiest thing to do is to pretend that they don't exist. And if there's something that helps you do it, then you're sort of prone to it. But at some point, you've had a problem, and now you have another problem, which is even bigger. You're addicted to drugs, right? And then that leads to other problems. So even though you may have had a temporary solution, like for the first whatever the time span is, it brings so much baggage with it, and ultimately you just crumble. And it breaks my heart because it's happened to my friends, it's happened to a ton of people, and it's a lot tougher to get out. In my opinion, I think it's easier to stay away from the drugs than it is to try them, to get hooked on them, and then to try to get off of them. So, if there's something that you could do, just don't even try them. And if you have, or if you are, just understand that you're not really bettering yourself. You're just, you're taking 2 steps back instead of 1 step forward.
Thank you. I think that saying that is going to help a lot, because I find that more and more is that everyone's like, this is going to solve it, and it's going to go away, but it really doesn't.
Yeah, it really doesn't, and it is such a tragedy that the world is faced with. But often a great mindset and just understanding exactly what you're doing to yourself might help you sort of get away from the bad habits.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
There's a ton of stress and pressure being a teenager. Any suggestions on how not to get caught up in it and live in the moment?
I haven't been a teenager, for quite some time, but the best advice I could give you is, understand that you're only as good as those you surround yourself with. So obviously, if you're surrounding yourself with negative people, there'll be a lot more negative in your life. If you're, surround yourself with great people, you'll have a lot of good in your life. Just make sure you have good friends. Stay away from the ones that, may not be necessarily going in the right direction and might want to take you with them, because it is contagious. You don't really realize it, but your subconscious mind picks up on a lot of the things that you surround yourself with, and then your body simply follows on them. So, definitely surround yourself with good people. From what I hear, most teenagers think their parents are their enemies. They're not. They love you. And, they'll be there through thick and thin. They'll be there, after all the boyfriends, after all the girlfriends, after all the relationships, after all the, fights with friends, etc. And those are the people that will help you even if they're, upset or unhappy with your actions. And you got to understand that people like that are really hard to find. Most of your friends, if they're mad at you, they don't want to talk to you. Your parents, could be livid with you, but they'll always help you. So, never take them for granted. Some people don't even have parents, right? I mean, it's tragedy, but just love your parents, surround yourself with good people, and, life will take care of itself.
Okay. It's a good thing to keep in mind. I know you dropped out of school at a young age, and I know at the Teen Business Summit you said never stop educating yourself. What if a teenager wants to drop out of school and feels it's the only option? What would you say to them?
I think every case would be different. I mean, and if some people want to drop out of high school because it is, difficult for them because of, maybe some of the people that are in there, I would recommend changing schools. For me, I dropped out of high school. I didn't even successfully finish grade 9, so I don't have much education behind me in terms of the public educational system. Obviously we didn't have money for private tutors or school or anything like that. So, but I have learned that, the world grows at such a vast pace. And, every single, morning that we wake up, it is a lot more advanced than it was the day before. So if you get away from education, you're sort of idle while everything else around you is moving. And then there's only a matter of time before idle isn't even good enough. The world is just so far advanced, and, the race is done, and you haven't even started. So you have to understand that, education is a big part of it. Growing yourself is a big part of it. If for whatever reason you want to get away from your current educational system, A, try to stay in it. I think school is very important. But B, never stop educating yourself, because education really is priceless. And, the things that you love, learn more about them. See if you can make a career out of them. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And some people dread Monday to Friday, and they feel that they lose 5 days out of the week because they hate their job, or they hate the 9 to 5 or whatever it may be. But a lot of great people have said, if you love what you do, if you're truly working with your passions, you add an extra 5 days to the week. You know what I mean? And that's kind of priceless, right? Definitely education's important. For whatever reasons you may have, to get away from school, just understand that you may not necessarily be bettering yourself, by getting away from education. So definitely educate yourself. Try to stay in there. Worst case scenario, try to switch schools, whatever it may be. But there's priceless things that are learned in high school that I didn't realize until I left. For instance, I couldn't stand science class. I couldn't stand geography. It was just like watching paint dry for me. So, but I realized that in itself teaches the valuable skill of toleration, and just accomplishing some of the things that you may have to accomplish that you don't necessarily want to, because life puts tasks in front of you, that you may not enjoy doing, but you just have to finish. Right? So, to get a passing grade in something that you don't necessarily enjoy teaches you that, and you've done that, and you could do it later on in life. For me, putting tasks in front of me that I wasn't looking forward to doing after dropping out of high school, for me it was torture. It wasn't bearable. I was a lot slower than most of the people around me, and I literally. It was the toughest point in my life until I started educating myself. So educate yourself as much as you can. Try to stay in school, etc.
Okay. So the lesson from that is never stop your education.
Definitely, you got to keep growing as a person, and your mind is such a wonderful thing. It can hold so much, and try to fill it with the things that you enjoy, and definitely just learn and grow through life.
So how can our mind help us overcome obstacles?
Obstacles they're fun to overcome because they give you a certain joy, obviously, afterwards that is unlike any other. When you make the impossible possible, that's a special thing. But, understand there's a gentleman by the name of Randy Hosh. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. I believe, don't quote me on it, his life was taken due to cancer. It was a tragedy, but he did, you can find it on YouTube. It's called The Last Lecture. It's about an hour and 10 minutes long, maybe, something like that. I don't really know, but anyways, it's a worldwide phenomenon. A book was published on it called The Last Lecture. There's so much priceless advice in there. He actually inspired me to chase my childhood dreams through watching that lecture. And that's why, I can get into that towards the end. I don't have to get into it now. But he says something in it that's priceless. And he said something along the lines of opportunities guard themselves. They put up brick walls. And it's tough to get into them. And the brick wall is not there to keep you up. The brick wall is there to keep the people out that don't deserve it. So there's trials, there's tribulations, and they test the people that don't want it bad enough. And then the people that do, the people that want the outcome bad enough, they find a way to get in. You know what I mean? And they're deserving of it. And I think it's great that opportunities guard themselves from the people that are, undeserving of the actual outcome, because, then we'd all get what we want. And there would be no miracles or anything like that. No great stories to tell on life calls. So, just understand that sometimes opportunities guard themselves to keep the unwilling, undeserving, people out. And if you want it bad enough, it's yours.
That's awesome. I think that's my new quote now. What inspired Life Pulp?
I think during my 25th birthday, I realized, a couple of things about life. Making money was the, people go through life and they just, they think about making money, and I want to do this because I'm going to make an X amount of dollars, I'm going to have, an X amount of cars, I'm going to have a great house, I'm going to live a great life. On my 25th birthday, I realized that making money was the easy part. It's not a real challenge, and that doesn't mean that I made all the money in the world, because I haven't. But I realized something that changed my life forever. I realized making money is the easy part, and I've always wanted to challenge myself. So there was no real challenge there, but making a difference, that's where the challenge had been. Do you know what I mean? So making money was the easy part. Making a difference was the real challenge. And I wanted to do something with my life that, just made sense. And I wanted to challenge myself. And for me, making a difference became the challenge. So Life Pulp was essentially, came out of all of that eventually. And it just seemed like a great thing to put together, and if it did work, if it did take off, it could help a lot of people. And my mindset helped me, get to where I am today. It may not be, the president of, a country or on top of the world, but I truly am happy, and I think I'm living the dream. And Life Pulp sort of shares that positive mindset with everybody around you. And, I talked about some of the great things that you could do. You could give, to others without asking for anything in return, and it gives you a special joy. And Life Pulp offers that. You could literally, put in an inspiration or a quote or something that, that you may think is inspiring, and you're going to connect. People are going to read it on the other side of the world, and then, they'll look at life forever in a different way because it's something that you've shared. So that's a priceless feeling. And then you may come across something that might be life-changing or altering for you, and you might be a better person because of it. And the more you read positive inspirations, the more your subconscious mind is around a positive environment, and before you know it, you'll see your days could be a little bit happier. Do you know what I mean? You might smile a couple of times more. You may come across a problem, and you won't see it as a problem, only because of, so many great things that you've put into your subconscious mind. You might look at, life in a different way. And Life Pulp seemed like a great thing to sort of put together, and make that happen. And that became my challenge. And, I put in, pretty much my life savings into it to bring it to life and to run it. And until this day, there's no ads. It makes no money. We do it simply just to give back, which is really cool. That's the main reason. My own personal kind of quirky reason for Life Pulp is, again, it has to do with Randy Pausch's last lecture, and he talks about like your childhood dreams, and you really have to watch the entire lecture to appreciate what he says. But he touches upon your childhood dreams and enjoying them, and I've always wanted to be a superhero. As weird as that may seem for a grown man to say that, but I think when we're kids, everybody wants to be a superhero. My fascination was with Superman, and I did a little bit of research on actually what superhero means. And being a superhero doesn't necessarily mean you're standing up to bad guys. You're putting people in jail. You're stopping bank robberies from happening, or from old ladies getting their purses stolen. The proper definition of a superhero is somebody that sheds light onto a better tomorrow. And when I read that, that was life-changing for me. And, when you think about it, that's what a superhero does. Batman made Gotham, City a safer place so people could enjoy tomorrow. Superman, obviously battled evil. So, so when I read that, that was life-changing for me. And I thought if I could somehow be a hope to a better today and a greater tomorrow, I could live out my dream as a superhero. And, as silly as that may sound, that was my own personal reason for trying to do some good in this world.
I don't think that's silly. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And our last question is, what do you wish to see in the teenage generation?
The teenage generation, a lot more reading. I think people don't read enough only because it seems like a tedious thing because there's YouTube, there's the internet, there's TV. These days, even if you want to educate yourself on something, it's a lot easier to get a documentary than to find a great book. Reading, I think, does wonders for yourself. For your mind. It's peaceful, it's quiet. See if you could just read a chapter a day. It may take you 10, 15 minutes, whatever. But, there's so much benefits to it. Your vocabulary, your writing. It's like taking your mind for a walk. Definitely try to read as much as possible. It doesn't have to be on boring things. It could be on things you enjoy. But, there's a ton of education in words on paper, and you just try to read more.
Very cool. I read all the time, so.
Yeah, reading's great.
It's my favorite thing.
Perfect.
So, thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it, and I think it's going to help tons of teenagers because I just know we needed some kind of extra something to help push us forward. And sometimes we don't like to read, so I thought this was the best way to do it. But next time we'll do one that requires reading.
No, there's nothing wrong with video interviews. I think they're great, and I think in terms of like for instance, you have an online company, you have your blog, and you're trying to drive traffic towards it. For you, video interviews might be great because they're a little bit more entertaining, and the user experience is really important in any business, right? People have to have fun with your product. So for you, video interviews may be great. I actually think video blogs are the future, just because, like I said, sometimes it's a little tedious for people to read, or on a computer screen especially. It's a lot different when you have a book in your hand. You can just sit down, maybe have this is going to make me sound old and like a dinosaur, a nice cup of tea or something, and you just simply enjoy a book. I think that's great. For what you're doing, I think video blogs, video interviews are great. They go viral. People can share them with friends. I think you're doing the right thing, and you should do more of them.
Thank you. I would love to. Do you have any last words for the teenagers who are going to see this?
To every person that took the time to get to the end where we are right now, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. If you think there's some good knowledge here, share it with a friend. Obviously, pay it forward. You may change someone's life in the process. And other than that, it's been an honor. I appreciate you taking the time, to ask me a couple of questions. And more than anything, I think it's great that you're doing this for others. You're not doing it for yourself. And that gives, the soul the ultimate joy, I think. And what you're doing is priceless. Keep it up. And I'm beyond proud of you.
Thank you so much, Roman. And I hope everyone goes on Life Pulse. It's really cool. And I think it can help brighten our day.
And it should be noted, recently, actually, my Twitter almost crashed and it wasn't working too well, and I think it was because I was following too many people, so I had to unfollow 99.9% of everybody that I was following. I only follow, to the best of my knowledge, 6 people. All great people in my life, and you're one of them.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is great. And like I said, the fact that you're doing it for others is priceless. And, I have tremendous respect for you and for what you're doing, and definitely keep it up.
Thank you. I love doing this. It's everything. I have to do it because this is what makes me feel good. And it's my life, and I want to share it with everyone.
Well, definitely keep it up because I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
If I had, put it this way, when I was your age, I was nowhere near the person that you are in front of me. I was, you seem like you have a good head on your shoulders. You're already, chasing your dreams. I was the exact opposite of you, and I'm in a good place right now. So I think when you get to my age, which is 28, you'll look back and you would have accomplished things that you would have thought possible as long as you keep it up, and you will trump every single accomplishment I have today. Just don't give up.
I won't. Thank you so much.
No problem. You're more than welcome.
And hopefully we'll be able to do another interview soon, maybe on a different topic, or maybe progressive as the year goes on or next year. But I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you're really busy, and it means a lot.
It's my pleasure. And yeah, anytime you need anything, just let me know. People could get in contact with me on Twitter, at romanprice.com. My personal fan page on Facebook is actually Superhero, but it's spelled a little differently. Okay. It's SOUP, like soup, and then ERHERO, and then when you sort of put it together, that's Superhero.
Okay.
The actual Superhero was taken, so I had to get creative. And then lifebulb.com, check it out. There's a ton of good stuff there. You don't necessarily have to contribute or post. Sometimes that's tedious for a lot of busy people. But read as much as you can, and it's really cool. Just read the homepage once a day, and I think you'll see changes in your life.
Thank you so much, and I hope everyone watches this or watches some of it, because I think everyone can take a lot from this.
I hope so. Thank you for putting it together.
Oh, no problem, and hopefully I'll be in contact with you soon.
Perfect. Let me know when this goes on. I'd love to see it.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Bye.